Hey, welcome everyone. Hey, today more than ever, the world needs voices that spark change, ignite hope, and drive transformation. Change doesn't happen in isolation. It happens when individuals choose to step forward, speak up, and take bold action. Whether you're leading a global movement or making a difference in your own community, your voice has power. In this podcast, we aim to amplify those voices, share the journeys of resilience, change makers, and inspire each of you to recognize your potential to impact the world. Let's create a ripple effect together. Welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. I am your host, Al Richards, and today we are here with the lovely Katie Swanson, and we're going to be talking about you master your life when you master your brain. And I love this topic because that's what my training was about the brain first approach. So, Katie, thank you so much for taking time out of your afternoon to be with me. Appreciate it.
I'm so excited.
How did we even connect? I don't remember. And I said that with my last show too. And it
I
was a
know.
friend that actually introduced us. But how was it that you and I ended up connecting?
I think it was at the networking First Friday event.
That's where it was, the first
Uh-huh.
Fridays.
Yep.
Yes.
I know. I was actually literally just thinking that this morning too. Where did I meet him? And then,
Yeah.
yep, it was at the event.
Yeah. And you wasn't there this morning.
I know. I know. Well, you know what? I had to prioritize my fitness class that I go to every Friday. I just couldn't give it up. I'm sorry. It's my
That's
favorite thing in
okay.
the world,
That's
but
all right. I
maybe
get it.
next month.
There you go. Okay. Maybe next month we'll see. It was a really good turnout this morning too, by the way,
Oh,
which
good.
was really good to see. So yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, I'm excited for next month. You'll have to
Yes.
hold me accountable.
Okay, I'll do my best. You know, Katie, I was going through your bio. My gosh, you went through a different type of addiction. You went through an eating disorder addiction, right? And
Mhm.
and I like to let our listeners know a lot that it doesn't matter what your addiction is, the brain fires the exact same way, whether it's drugs, alcohol, porn, sex, gambling, eating, shopping, work, gaming, whatever it may be, our
Mhm.
neurons fire the exact same way. And some people say, well, certain addictions are worse than others. And maybe there is. However, it still changes our lives
Mhm.
and it takes us in a dark place. And I think whatever addiction that is, and if it takes us in that direction, it's not a good direction to go. Is that kind of where you started seeing your life heading or
Yeah,
yours?
exactly. I think you hit it on the nail. I think, right, we can be addicted to just about anything, and the experience is very similar for all of us because where I felt was, I just felt so out of control. I felt so hopeless. Just to like back it up a little bit, when I was young, this started when I was like in middle school, like
Hmm.
young middle, like sixth grade. And I just started learning about fitness and I started learning about calories and body image and all of those things. And I learned about, I don't know if you've heard of P90X, but at the
Hmm.
time, P90X was like the coolest workout you could ever do. And I got all into that. And I had a friend tell me that if I did that every single day, I would get a six pack. And I loved the idea of that. If I did this exercise every single day, I would get a six pack. And I swear that was the start of all this because when I started doing that, I started getting into, oh, but I also need to lower my calorie count to lose fat so that my six pack can show. And I started getting into all of these little, nitty gritty health things that started becoming obsessive. And before I knew it, I remember being at a slumber party with friends and I binge ate like 10 king size Hershey bars that night. Like they're giant. It was pretty impressive. I ate 10 of them and I felt like a piece of crap. But I thought like, oh my gosh, I just must have no self-control. And I told myself, okay, that was disgusting. No one has ever done that before. I am awful and I'm never going to do that again. And then sure enough, a week later, there I was doing it again with, like 10 bags of chips. A week later, there I was doing it again and again and again. And so I just was stuck in this pit of, feeling disgusting, feeling like there's something totally wrong with me, and feeling like no one else is struggling with this but me. And all I need to do is put my foot down once and for all and say I'm done, and I should be done. But here I am, still struggling with it. It felt so hopeless and so lonely.
Wow, I can imagine. And you just hit the nail on the head. It's amazing when we're going through some type of life trauma or a different direction, how we feel like out of billions of people on this planet that we are the only ones
Right.
that are suffering from it. And again, I
Yep.
think it goes back to how society has molded us, how
Mhm.
we see the outside world, how there is really so much, and I don't even know if this is a word, but go with it, please.
I make up
Phoniness.
words all the time. It's okay.
Phoniness. There's so much
Mhm.
phoniness out there, and
Yeah.
with the social media, people make their life seem like it's just some kind of fairy tale fantasy thing.
Yeah.
And then it comes to find out they're struggling like crazy.
Mhm.
And when we are able to open up, like whenever that time was for you to finally say, you know what, I got to start opening up and see if I am the only one, that's actually when we start seeing our life start to change in a whole different direction that is more positive.
Yes, exactly. I was amazed. It honestly has just been in these past few years that I've opened up to lots of friends I've made recently about it, but it hasn't been until like very recently that I've shared with my childhood friends growing up with that I was struggling with that. And I think that felt the most vulnerable to me because they were the ones experiencing life with me. They knew me at that time, yet they had no idea that I was going through that. But recently sharing that with them, like you said, was mind blowing because we were able to connect. I didn't realize how much of myself I was keeping for so many years, just keeping from people by not sharing it. And I've known these friends for life, and sharing this vulnerable struggle I've had connected us on such a deeper level. They shared things, they didn't have an eating disorder, but they shared other things that they've been struggling with. Like, we need this, we need to open up about these things. So I love that point.
Was it to the point to where you didn't want to share it because of that fear of being judged? Because I have found that out to be the
Oh, yeah.
case with a lot of people, including myself.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. I didn't want to be judged. I didn't want to be seen as disgusting, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. And just this out of control freak, like who eats 10 king size chocolate bars, right?
I don't know. I can eat a quart of ice cream in one sitting.
No shame, right?
No
No shame.
shame. No, none at all.
Right, but we care so much about how people are perceiving us, right? And that keeps us small when we're so focused. Like, I swear I could have I struggled with this for about 10 years. I could have probably cut this in half, if not even more, if I was just willing to feel the feeling of being vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
Feel open. If I was willing to embrace that discomfort a little more and open up, I would have solved this problem so much faster. We save ourselves so much heartache when we're just willing to be raw, when we're willing to share that we don't have it all together. None of us have it all together. When we're willing to, we save our heartache and we also are able to help others in the process.
What do you feel like it was? Where do you feel like this eating disorder, this addiction was taking your life? I mean,
Yeah.
could you tell at a certain time, whether it was 6 months, a year, or 2 years, or 5 years down the road, that you're
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, this thing has really got control of me, and I don't know what to do to get rid of it.
Right. Yeah. Well, for a while, I didn't know if I had something wrong with me because eating disorders weren't talked about very much. And I also exercised like crazy. And so I looked very healthy. No one would know. Like, not everyone with binge eating disorder is overweight. I've never been overweight, but I struggled with it. So, um, with that said, I went kind of a long time, I don't know, maybe like 5, 6 years until I actually fully admitted that this is a problem. You know, it's also normalized in our culture just to eat a lot in general. And so that can just be so blended in, like, oh, yeah, you know what? Heartbroken from a breakup. Let's just down a gallon of ice cream. We all do it. So it was easy to blend in my problem with everyone else. And I did that for a long time. But I think it was like middle of high school. I want to say that I fully kind of acknowledged, like, I don't like this. Like, I hate feeling like anytime I'm around bad food, so to say, I'm going to lose control. I hated feeling that feeling. And so I'm trying to remember, I sought out a bunch of things in high school. I went to Overeaters Anonymous, and I was the youngest one in there in that group, going up to that
Hmm.
group. I read a million different books on eating disorders, and I tried therapy. I tried a lot of things all throughout high school, and a lot of them were very, very helpful. But I found, and this isn't a dig on any of it, it was just my personal experience was I found that a lot of these things I was turning to had, I would say, like two problems. One was I was constantly being almost over empathized with in my problem, in the sense of I'd go to these groups and we talk about them and we talk about the problem and say how hard it is, but then none of us would do anything to change it, and we just go on with our lives as if talking about our problem over and over and over again is going to get us out of it. It was almost
Yeah.
like an addiction in and of itself to just fester in your problem. So I got caught in a lot of those groups that made things worse for me with time. But then another thing I ran into was I was constantly told that that I had this eating disorder because I had trauma, because there was some trauma deep in my life that I needed to heal in order to overcome my relationship with food. And that felt super confusing to me for a long time because I could not think of a single like serious trauma I've been through. I had a great childhood growing up. I just didn't have a good relationship with food, right?
Yeah.
And so so it was almost like I was looking for trauma in my life to have a reason for why I was eating like this, but I couldn't find any. And I was still stuck, right? Like I was still stuck eating. So all those solutions I kept turning to weren't quite solving my problem. They were almost just making it worse in a way, if that makes sense.
No, it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Because with a lot of the hundreds of people that I've interviewed who's battled drug and alcohol, there has been a trauma in their
Mm,
life, right?
yeah.
And there's also been some, though, who have come from really good families and
Hmm.
come from very religious families and different things. And for me, I have found a little bit of the trauma, even though if they didn't have it, where it ended up being that guilt type trauma, because they
Mm,
got to a point, especially those who came from a very religious family, right? They go
mm,
out and they start drinking, they start realizing how open they became, because maybe they were closed off before and they started realizing they could talk to people, or for guys they could talk to girls, or girls they could talk to guys, and they started getting that liquid courage, and
yeah.
then before they knew it, it had such a hold on them,
Mm,
and so I think the majority of that comes from the trauma, the majority, at least with the drugs and alcohol, and they're doing everything they can to bandage the problem,
mhm,
mask their feelings. And I also like what you said about some of the other groups where you just sit and talk about it, and it was that way for Al-Anon with me, when my
mm,
ex was going through her stuff. And again, I'm not knocking Al-Anon because it's helped a lot of people,
mm,
tons of individuals, and I'm so grateful that something like that was there to help them. But
mm,
for me, it was going into, like you said, I'm going into these groups, and all I heard was bitch and moan, bitch and moan, bitch and moan, bitch and moan, bitch and
mm.
moan. It's like I'm already dealing with that at home. Why do I want to come and hear other people talk about the same thing? I want a solution. How do I fix it? How do I get myself out of a situation? Or can
Right,
I change this? Or what can I do to change something in my life to get me
right,
out of where I'm feeling right now? And no one had that solution.
right.
So I can get what you're saying.
Yes, yes, because I think there's a healthy balance of like we need to empathize with each other
Hmm.
and I just shared my story, right? It's good to share our stories and to be there for each other. But when that's the only thing or the majority of the thing we're doing to try to get out of it, I honestly think we do that and we fester in our problems to avoid the discomfort of actually taking action to solve the problem. We think we're solving it by talking about it, but we're actually just avoiding the real action and the real uncomfortable transformation it's going to take to get out of it.
Yeah. And I think we're looking for that comfort of people going, oh, it's okay. It's not
Yeah,
really that big of a deal, right?
right. The
Because
validation.
the validation, because then that makes us feel better.
Yeah,
And how many times have we all done that to where something's going on in our life and we start talking to friends or family members about our situation because that's exactly what we want to hear.
right.
We want to hear somebody to go, oh my gosh, you poor thing, right? Because then it makes us feel so much better. We get to where we play in that. I don't know if you've heard of the Cartman triangle. You know, you
Explain it.
have
I haven't.
so Cartman triangle, it's spelled with a K, Karpman.
Okay.
And there's two triangles in the bottom triangle or in the Cartman triangle. There's a bottom one that's upside down, and
Uh-huh.
there's an upper one that's right side up. Well, the bottom one at the very tip, down, let me see if I can do it this way, down at the very bottom is the
Yeah.
victim. And
Oh.
over here on the other corner is the rescuer. And then on the other
Mm.
corner is the persecutor. And what we do is
Mm.
all these intertwine, the arrows intertwine with one another. So all day long, every day of our life, we go from a victim to a persecutor to a victim, or a persecutor over to a rescuer back to the persecutor, over to the victim. And it's our pattern. It's how society has molded us. So we
Mm.
want to play the victim so we can turn around and now play the rescuer so we can rescue somebody,
Right.
or to turn around and help us make us feel like a victim again. But then we
Mhm.
persecute because then it validates us playing a victim. So we play in this all day long. And we're talking about our
So
brains.
good.
To get back to that, we have the capability that the majority of us don't realize.
Right.
We can change it to the upper triangle, to
Right.
where at the very top, we are the creators and the hero of our own life. They all
Mm.
intertwine down here on the upper, and I won't say what they are because I want people to look it up.
That's
But
great.
we
I'm
can,
gonna look it up.
yeah, look it up because we can actually change and we can control where we go, but it's more of a positive path
Right.
when you're in the upper triangle than where you are in the bottom. And if you want to understand it very well, get on Amazon and order the book, The Power of Ted.
Power of
The
Ted.
Power of Ted. It's
I'm
a
gonna look that up.
story form about the Cartman Triangle, and it explains it so well. It's about a guy who gets a divorce, and he's
Hmm.
struggling with things, and he still loves his wife. And anyway, explains how everything, and he meets this old man walking on the beach, and this old man is like an angel that just comes out of nowhere and starts teaching him this stuff. And to see the transformation that happens with this guy by the end of the book. And I just actually shared a talk on it on October 5th. I called it the
That's
victim
right.
mentality, and that's what it was about.
Interesting. Interesting. That's
Yeah.
great. And I know you said you were talking about the victim mentality, so that's cool to hear the details. The
Hmm.
Cartman
The
triangle.
Cartman Triangle, yeah, with a
Yeah.
K, Karp instead of the CARP.
Okay, with a K.
Check it out, and it
Yes.
really gets you scratching your head, going, "Wow, this is
Right.
interesting." Because yeah,
Right. Well, and you hit it on the nail for me on what really led to my transformation because like I said, I tried a million different things, but ultimately, and not years later, but like in the beginning of college is when I came across coaching. I came across life coaching. I also came across the book Brain Over Binge, which is incredible for anyone struggling. I would even say, eat any addiction, this applies to it. She
okay,
made this book based on an addiction. She read a book about an alcohol addiction and she translated it to her eating disorder and she overcame it. And so the book, Brain Over Binge, is her experience with her eating disorder using these principles from overcoming alcohol addiction to overcome an eating disorder. So very incredible. And so I think it definitely applies there too. Um, what was I going to say? But she talks about in here, right, a few things of one, you need to start taking some dang responsibility for your life, right? You
Mhm.
cannot keep playing this victim that you're always going to be stuck, that you're always, woe is me, that I'm never going to be able to get out of this. It doesn't mean that you be hard on yourself or anything, but it's just taking responsibility that you have the power to get out of this if you own up to it, right? And acknowledging what you said, you have the ability in your brain to rewire it and to think differently so that you can change. This is a big struggle for sure, but it's not bigger than you. You are capable of getting out of it if you own up to yourself.
Yeah.
And then, oh yeah, yeah. What were you gonna
No, go
say?
ahead. Go ahead. I was just say I was agreeing with you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that was a big change for me. And then she talks about in that book and also in coaching is where I learned that you have the ability to process your urges that come. So your urges to drink or to turn to drugs or to overeat are all the same. When we want to turn to anytime we're turning to food or drugs or alcohol, it's because we're getting a strong urge to do so, right? It's that habitual urge that we've learned over and over again that comes over us and makes us feel extremely powerless, and we just need to go grab it and inhale it to
Yeah. We
take
get
care of
that
the urge.
dopamine hit.
We get the dopamine hit,
Yeah.
right? Right. And a lot of us feel so overwhelmed by that. I had felt overwhelmed by that for years. I thought I literally have no control over my body. When this urge hits, I'm downing, 10 bags of chips or whatever. And she talks about in this book that a few things changed my life. That one, your urge doesn't have to have any power over you. It's literally just a sensation going through your body. Like it is not forcing your hands to raise and go grab the chips or
Yeah.
go grab the alcohol. It's not. It's just a sensation going through your body, and you can actually sit there and feel it. And it's not comfortable by any means, but the urge isn't you. The urge is just this separate thing going through you that you're capable of feeling. And so I talk about a lot with people I coach and what I learned from that we need to get really good when it comes to overcoming these things. We need to get really good at feeling bad. We need to get really good at feeling these bad urges, right? Or
Yeah.
even stress. For me, stress, anxiety, overwhelm, boredom, whatever it is, that emotion that we avoid and turn to food or drugs or alcohol or porn or whatever with, we need to get good at feeling those feelings instead of sidestepping them, letting them go through us. So that was a big, big game changer for me.
And that is so spot on.
Mm.
You know, I've talked with a lot of people, and it's stuff that I've actually worked on, geez, for the past 15 years and really, really hard the past year is being
Mm.
able to sit in our own emotions
Yes.
and our own feelings and allowing it because, again, I feel like the 3D world out there has got us so trained to where we're looked at as weak if we cry. We're looked at weak if we act a certain way or if we feel sad, when all reality, God gave us all these emotions for a reason. It's
Mhm.
to allow us to feel these emotions and go through them.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, some of them are so powerful, people do run to other things like 10 bags of chips or we're going to the liquor store and grabbing a bottle. You know, to be able to
Mhm.
sit in it, and this is kind of a gross way of looking at it, but it's something that I still to this day, as young as I was, I still remember when my parents were teaching me how to potty train and I went in my diaper, the dirty diaper, nasty stuff, right? They put me on the toilet and they put that diaper on my lap. And I had to sit there and smell it and look at it. And
Oh.
that got me to realize now I'm sitting in my own shit, basically, right? Staring at my. So to let people know, sit in your own shit,
Yeah.
feel it, emotion it, right? Feel that emotion and allow yourself to go through it.
Yes.
Because once you start getting yourself to where you can go through it and you allow these motions to take over, before you know it, you're retraining your neurons and that you get a different fire, a healthier fire to where
Right.
now you start getting a little bit more control over it. You know, in my training, we're talking about someone that has a problem going to the bar every day after work, but yet every day when they leave home to go home from work, they pass that same bar. Well, how hard is it not to stop?
Mm, right.
Change something, right? Change it and go a different way home. Gosh, there's got to be a different way home, right? To where, and then pretty soon, before you know it, how often do we all come home from work or from somewhere that we're used to traveling all the time and go, oh my gosh, I don't even realize how I got here. And it's
Mm,
because we've trained our brain
so automatic.
to automatic, and we can do the same thing with habits and
Yeah.
addiction.
Yes, yes, totally agree. And I think, yeah, like being willing to process your emotions, I think is that first step in rewiring that habit loop, right? Because you do, if you feel, the habit loop probably looks like getting an urge, right? And then eating or alcohol or whatever it is, right? And then, feeling better for, a tiny, tiny bit, and then you end up feeling worse off.
Mhm.
And so then because you feel so bad, you get an urge again to turn to that stuff. And it's just a loop and a loop and a loop. But if you learn how to feel bad, then you can just pause that cycle and let the urge go through you and let it completely pass. And then you're rewiring your brain to understand when I feel bad, I'm capable of feeling bad. I don't have to sidestep it with anything else. I can let it pass through me and I'm still alive. I'm more alive than ever, actually, because I'm feeling the human experience of good and bad, right?
Yeah.
And there's this idea I love. It's called the 50-50 idea. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's this idea that maybe life is 50-50 in the sense of maybe it's half good, half bad, and maybe it was always meant to be that way. Maybe naturally, half of our lives we will feel really, really happy, but the other half we will feel sad because we cannot have any ounce of happiness if we've never experienced sadness. We just can't. It wouldn't even make sense.
Yeah.
Like if I bippity boppity booed happiness just all over your life 100% of the time, you wouldn't even know it, right? You'd be numb. But that's what we do in our society. We are like pleasure. We're just like extremely focused on pleasure, pleasure, pleasure all the time. Like we suck at feeling.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. Anytime we feel bad, you feel lonely? Okay, scroll on Facebook, scroll on Instagram. Or yeah, heartbroken after a breakup, just, down a gallon of ice cream, right? We're not taught how to feel. We're not taught how to face this 50-50 of life. And by avoiding the bad side of the 50-50, we keep the good side small too.
Yeah.
And our whole circle, I should have brought my whiteboard, but this is really a circle with a line down the middle, sad, happy, right? But we keep that circle tiny when we're not willing to feel the hard, but we expand our circle when we are willing to feel the hard. Then we can feel more happiness and we grow and we feel the whole human experience. And it's amazing. It's what we signed up for.
Yeah. It's exactly what we signed up for. And I really do believe in that concept in all reality, the 50
Yeah,
50. You have to have the yin and the yang. You know,
right.
I mean, look at nature. Nature proves it to us all the time.
Mm, yep.
I mean, it really does, right? We have winter where everything's dead, everything's blah. I mean, there's some beauty like a fresh snowstorm and different things like that.
Yeah.
However, after a snowstorm and traffic gets going, it turns black and nasty and ugly. And then all of a sudden spring starts happening. You start seeing flowers coming up. It's growing, right? You start seeing flowers coming up out of the soil and they bloom and the smell is great and the leaves start changing. The birds are singing. But then it has to change again. And then we
Right.
go into fall. All that stuff that was so beautiful starts dying. And then
Yes.
before we know it, it's gone again.
Yeah.
And life is that exact same way in my eyes. I love to look at nature and
Mm,
compare it to life. And I
mm,
didn't start doing this till about 3 or 4 years ago.
mm.
And it was from a book that I read. And I don't remember the name of the book, but it's like, my gosh, we have to go through these periods of our life to grow, I mean, when you plant a tree or a certain bush, does it stay the same height for years as when it was when you planted it? No, it
Right.
takes all these seasons to get it to grow, right?
Yep.
It takes all these experiences, everything that it sees to grow like a
Yes.
tree, and the roots get bigger and they spread out further and they go deeper into the ground, which makes us stronger and taller and healthier. If we
Mm.
look at life that way, and there's times wind's going to blow and it's going to knock our ass over.
Yes.
However, if we get right back up again and allow it to go, okay, yeah, I got to brush myself off and here I go again. I
Right.
think
Right.
it helps. At least it's helped me in the endeavors that
Love
have
that.
followed me the past few years.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. It reminds me, my dad always compares life to a mud run. He says it's almost like it's kind of mind blowing that people voluntarily sign up to go run through mud and get super dirty and sweat and be nasty by the end of it.
Yeah,
Like, why the heck do we do that? But I think that's similar to why we signed up for life, right? Like, we knew it wasn't going to be all summer. We were going to have winter, fall, right? We were going to have the hard seasons too, like you said. We were
yeah,
going to be running through mud. Yet here we are, we're just down for it. But then, when hard things come over us, yet here we are. Well, real quick, if you were in a mud run, would you be surprised that you get muddy? Like
no, you wouldn't be.
you'd be like, yeah, that's what I signed up for. Let's
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
But yet in life, when we feel the hard feelings, it's almost like we're so surprised, like something's gone wrong.
yeah,
Like, oh my gosh, we need to go fix this, right? But if we just knew this is a mud run, like I signed up for the human experience. I didn't sign up for half of the human experience of just happy. I signed up for all of it because I want to be a full human. I want to try it. I want to grow, like you said, like that beautiful tree. I want to be that beautiful tree. Then yeah, I'm down to get muddy. Let's go. It's gonna be hard, but let's let it be hard, right?
yeah. Yeah, you got to be willing to take the punches, like in that movie Rocky Balboa. I think it was like the sixth movie where he's talking to his son, and
Mm,
it's like life ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and it'll beat you to your knees and keep you there if you let it.
yeah.
But it's not about how many times you can get hit. It's about how many times you can. Oh, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take
Mm,
and keep moving
mhm.
forward, because that's how winning is done. And I like to look, I call them shit balls. Life has a way of throwing shit balls at you, and sometimes it nails you square in the face, and it is nasty,
Yeah.
nasty, nasty, nasty.
Right.
However, we have the means of wiping all that stuff off and moving
Uh,
on. We've experienced it. A buddy of mine, we always like to say, look at the message in the mirror, because there's a lesson behind everything. Whenever you have those shit balls hit you, there's a lesson behind it. You
mhm,
said it here just a little bit ago, Katie. That's what helps us grow,
mhm,
because life would literally, and of course, it's hard for us to see it, but I really do believe what you said. Life would be so boring and so
mhm.
miserable if we were just to be happy all the time, because
Right.
what else? We wouldn't be experiencing anything. We got to be able to experience these emotions. That's why God gave them to us.
That's why amen. I totally agree. And I think, oh, something you just said, after the shit balls, something else you said after that, I can't remember. Oh, well, pretty much just, yeah, being willing to feel the hard feelings. And I think also being willing, and it connected to something you said, so it'll come back,
Okay.
but also being willing to change your story about what you're telling yourself.
The message in the mirror.
The met, oh, okay, I think that's what it was. I think that's what it was, right? Because I think also when we're going through, a really, really hard thing, it's not to discount that, of course, it's so hard, but I think we sit here, and constantly tell ourselves the same story over and over and over again, that this is so hard. I'm never going to get out of this. Something I was saying all the time is, yeah, I'm constantly going to be out of control. Um, and we fester in this story over and over and over again. And I think part of, getting out of that story is we need to be willing to rewrite that story a little bit. We need to be willing to right? See the story we've been living in and almost see it in more of a positive light, right? Like instead of putting yourselves in the shoes of, oh, I'm just this bad person who's been going through this addiction for years and years and years. I think what's so important about rewiring your mind is instead, what's the word? Keeping the oh yeah, this is what it is rewriting the story to keep all the circumstances the same, but making yourself the hero of your story rather than the victim of your story.
Yeah.
And so I think what that looked like for me was instead of saying, oh my gosh, I'm just this out of control freak who's never going to be able to get over this, what I had to say is, hey, I'm someone who's been trying for forever to get a hold over food, and she's been doing the very best she could with the knowledge that she's had. And now she's going to move forward. Instead of saying, oh my gosh, I'm just a piece of crap, I am somebody who's been working my butt off to get free. And I'm so proud of myself for that. And yeah, I'm still struggling, but I'm doing the best with the resources I have. So that's a little bit random, but it tied to something you said, and it's going to come back in my brain. But that's another really important point there too.
No, and I love that you put that point in. I shared on the show before yours. I had a gentleman on my show about 2.5 years ago, and he battled a porn addiction for 2 decades.
Yeah.
And he was on a trip out of town, and he was going to take his life. And his family's here in Utah, right? And he'd said a prayer before he was getting ready to jump off this bridge. And he heard a voice say, "Why are you not celebrating the days you didn't use?" And it stopped him. And it reminded me of that, what you just said, right? You're doing the best that you can. He goes, I was beating myself up for the times I lost control of my addiction instead of celebrating the days that I did not.
Yes.
So he goes, again, it goes back to overpowering the brain because we really do have the capability. It's crazy that we control this instead of this controlling us, but we think that's how it is. As soon as he started doing that, that's when his whole recovery process started happening. All those things that he did, like you, all these things that you tried, you did the best you can. But however, one day something clicks. One day that key fits in that lock a little differently and it opens something up. And then that's when all of a sudden you're going, oh my gosh, see, it's another page. It's a new journey here. I'm going off in a different direction. And it would have never happened if you wouldn't have continued to go the direction that you were going. You didn't stop. And too many of us stop because we think it's useless and it's not ever going to happen when that is such BS. It will happen. And now here he's been, I don't know, 20 something years, you know, clean. And it all started by going, I'm going to celebrate because he slipped a lot throughout the time. But before he realized it, he was a week. And then maybe he messed up for a bit. And then all of a sudden it was 2 weeks. And then next thing he knew, it was 3 months, you know, and it just kept growing. And to me, it sounds like that's kind of how your story went as well.
Yes. Well, and I love that you said it will happen because I think when we rewrite the story of what we've been telling ourselves about our past and our current self, then we also need to claim what's in our future. We need to claim our future self. And Brooke Castillo of the Life Coach School, she always says, claim your future like it's your dang property. Like you can put whatever you want in that future. And I think we don't allow ourselves to believe that we really can, right? That we really can have a future of total freedom from this addiction.
Yeah.
We can. And we need to envision that person. And maybe that person is so far out of reach, you can't even see them. But you just need to at least trust that those words you said, it will happen. That is in my future. I have no clue how I'm going to get there yet. It feels so out of reach, but I'm just going to say that's on my future property. I'm going to be there. And I'm going to stop festering in this story of victimhood that I'm just a piece of crap. And I'm going to start telling myself, right, the story that serves me, right? And then I'm going to believe that my future self, totally free of addiction, exists. And I'm going to try to spend time with that person every day, envision them. focus there, not back here anymore.
Exactly. Trust the journey. And
Trust.
you have to enjoy the journey as much as possible. Is the
Yes.
journey going to be easy? No, hell no.
Yes.
Heck no. But you know what? For those who have come through it, living on the streets wasn't easy either, right? And you made
Mhm.
it through. And there's so many other people now that are living such an amazing life who used to live on the streets. And it's because they had that mindset. Something finally clicked in them to go, you know what? This is not how I'm going to live the rest of my life. And they made a decision. And
Right.
they say it was easy. There ain't a one of them that said it was easy. Not a one.
Yeah.
And even my journey the past 15 years, has it been easy? Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. There's been so many times I picked up that white towel to throw it in and just go, yeah, I'm done. I'm not doing this. But for some reason, probably just like yourself, something caused you to drop that towel and go, you know what? I'm going to give it another shot.
Yeah.
And it's just like, again, I like to use sports as an analogy here and there. It's just like with baseball or football or whatever. It's one play at a time to get you down the field. Very
Yes.
seldom is it one big long throw and it's a touchdown, right? Or it's a
Right.
big long shot from half court that wins the game for you. It's a process. And as long as we continue to work that process, before we know it, we wake up one day and you're going, oh my gosh, look how far I've become. And you don't
I
even
am.
notice it. You don't even notice it, but one day it finally clicks.
Right. Totally. I completely agree. And I think we need to remember that failing is part of the process. That's
Yeah,
how we get there, right? I think we're taught all growing up that we need to shoot for the A pluses all the time. We need to get 100% on the test, but I think we don't acknowledge that the way we get to 100% is by getting a bunch of Fs, by failing first to get good at it. That's how we succeed. And so I think that's the same with this journey of addiction. That certainly was for me, is in order to, courageously move towards my future self who's free from this addiction, I needed to give myself permission to fail a bunch in the process and think like my future self and say, hey, you will be free. This failure has nothing on you. Learn from it, keep going. Versus my past self would have said, here you go, failing again. You just gave in again. You're screwed. You're never getting over this.
yeah,
Right. Right. Failure is just part of the process, and you can use it to learn from it, or you can use it to self-sabotage and hold you down and feel like you can't do it. There's two ways to look at it.
absolutely. Absolutely. Before we move on a little bit here with your story and where your journey has taken you so far in your life,
Yeah.
part of our training was learning how that we can refire new and healthier neurons. And one of the things our coaches did with us is like, we want all of you, if you're right-handed, if you brush your teeth with your right hand, we want you to brush your teeth with your left hand for the next 7 days. And if you brush your teeth with your left, we want you to go to your right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, this is going to be quite the challenge, right? So I did it that first night. I mean, I had toothpaste down the side of my cheek and I felt really uncoordinated, and I was really having a hard time. And I'd find myself grabbing the tooth, and then I'd have to switch back. And I ended up doing it for about 11 days. And by the 11th day, I was actually starting to get to where I could start doing it not as good, but pretty decent as I would with my right.
Mm,
And that taught all of us a very valuable lesson about how, as long as we continue to work it,
mm,
we can definitely change in whichever direction that we want to go. And
I love that.
I recommend people getting on Google and Google the backward bicycle and
Backward
watch
bicycle.
the backward bicycle and watch that video. I don't want to say what it is because I want to give the time to you. However, it's very, very interesting what
Wow.
happened with this bike that was engineered to be ridden opposite, if that makes sense. So
Interesting.
so
Well, now
check it
I'm sitting
out.
on the edge of my seat. I got to see this.
Yeah, you'll have to check it out, the backward bicycle. So, you know, you get yourself to a point, Katie, where you're going, okay, life's got to change.
Yeah.
And I am a firm believer. Okay, see, I don't want using that believing word because it has the word lie in it. My version is we have our journey that we go through to get us to a certain point so we can now start helping other individuals in their journey. And what
Mhm.
better people to help others who are suffering from the same thing we've gone through, which at the time we think we're the only ones, to realizing they have a hand that they can reach out to and somebody's there going, hey, I know exactly what you're feeling. Let me help guide the way here for you. Let me help set you in the right direction.
Mhm.
Is that where you kind of started going off in your path with this new adventure that you're starting?
Yeah, in terms of coaching now, is that what you're
Yeah,
asking?
coaching and I mean empowering women, right?
Mhm.
I think that is so cool that I met someone at First Fridays again this morning that is doing the same thing. They got this big thing out at SUV that's happening here in the next couple of weeks, and it's all about empowerment. I think it's really cool.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, certainly. I've been coaching on overeating for past 1 or 2 years, I'd say. And it's been incredible to help women see that this thing that's totally taken over their life doesn't have to anymore. And this can actually, you can become totally free from this thing when you, like we said, take responsibility for your life, feel your feelings, focus on your future self, things we've talked about. And now I'm transitioning that into coaching on a million other things, right? Because these tools that you and I have talked about, they don't just help with addiction, they help. These are things we should be learning in first grade,
Yeah, right? Yeah, agreed.
right? Like we were not taught how to manage our brain or
Mm-mm.
our emotions. And and I think it's such a shame because everything we do, how we feel and the results we create in our life all depend on how well we can manage our brain, right? And so I think, yeah, just one reason I'm so passionate about this now is because I'm teaching people how simple but powerful it is to master what you're thinking so that you can feel better, take the actions you want to, and create the results that you're wanting in your life, right? And it's so much simpler than we often think. But and I think a point on top of all of that is like I think we're so used to when we want to solve our problems and reach a goal, we want the to-do list. Like we want, like I always use this example, but like if you're wanting to lose weight, we just want the meal plan, the exercise plan, someone to tell us what to eat, right? But how many people actually stick to that? No one actually sticks. Yeah. Because we don't know how to manage our brains. We can be given the to-dos all we want, but when we don't know how to manage our minds and our emotions, we're gonna fail over and over and over again because we don't know how to think the thoughts we need to stay committed and actually create those results. So that's fundamental to anything we do in our life. It's a meta skill that makes your life amazing in every single way.
Yeah. And you've gone through some training with this, right, to help you get to this point to where now you can start. Let's see, your new thing is the School of Women's
Yeah.
Wellness, correct?
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went through, well, I got my degree in health psychology, and I also got certified as a life coach through the Life Coach School. And I always say, but my life coach certification, I learned a million times more in that certification than I did in my degree. It was incredible. And you might be able to say this, the same with the coaching certifications you've done, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just mind blowing. It's exactly what I talked about, how to manage your brain. And so now I'm taking those tools that I've used, learned from the life coach school and used in overeating coaching. And I'm starting a school called the School of Women's Wellness, where I'll be teaching these tools in this school. Right now, it's literally just $19 a month for personal coaching and to learn these tools, so that every woman just has access to managing her brain so she can master her life, like we said in the beginning of this. So I'm super excited. It's going to be amazing.
You should be excited. And really, Kate, I think this is an amazing thing that you're doing.
Mm,
I mean,
thank
it
you.
really is. And something that I've realized that I did not realize was happening out there. So, you know, being single lately, I've been out of dating scene for 18 years, right? Been with the same woman
Mm,
for 18 years. Now I'm single and
mm,
I've dated here and there. And a few of the women that I have dated have had such nasty, nasty relationships.
mm,
And it has really changed who they are as individuals, and it's affected them, and the trust factors that they just don't have, right? It's like I've gone out with some where they spend more time looking for every red flag that I have instead of actually looking for the good in the person. And it's just because they're protecting themselves. I want women to know that I'm not putting them down. They're protecting themselves
right. Right.
by all rights. However, to be able to learn these different tools to
Mm,
change, because there are some guys out there too. I mean, I stuck by my ex-wife's side for many, many years of her addiction. A lot of nasty things happened in it. And I could also use that, but I refuse to use that, to stop me from getting into another relationship.
mm,
And if it wasn't for the tools that I have learned and the tools that have come to me, I would probably be in the same position a lot of these other people are at, to where I'm bad mouthing women. It's because of this, it's because of that. Again, I'm going to take my own accountability to where I did not have to stay in my relationship as long as I did. I
mm,
hold that on me, not her,
mm.
because I wanted to be there for her and I wanted to do everything I can. Again, that's still on me, not her.
Right.
I'm the one that put a lot more damage on me because I chose to stay in that arena.
Mm,
However, I also refuse to stay in that arena right now, to where I want to get out and I want to expand and I want to help other individuals go, hey, you don't have to live the rest of your life like this. You just do not. Yes, step with caution, protect yourself, don't allow people to push you around, have your boundaries, which a lot of people don't understand
mm,
that they can have, right? Have your boundaries, protect yourself, but also don't stay stuck there, because where you think you're being happy by staying away from it,
mm.
and again, I could be wrong. I believe that's totally the wrong way of doing it. But again,
Oh, I
I'm them
totally,
and I'm not in their shoes.
right. I totally agree. And I think when you're focused on protecting yourself by looking for all the flaws in the other person, you're just creating a relationship that's going to hurt yourself ultimately because you're only looking for the bad, right? And not the good. And so you're not setting yourself up for a relationship that's actually going to thrive. And so it's
Yeah.
just so ironic how we do these things. Our brain thinks, oh, this will be a helpful thing for me to do to protect myself, to look out for all the potential red lights, right? We think that's good, but actually the result that that creates is it leaves your relationships worse off, right? Or you don't even create a relationship in the first place because you're not even letting yourself get close to this person.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a great thing that you bring up is we need to be willing to I think we talked about in the beginning, we need to be willing to feel vulnerable when we step into relationships. And we need to be willing to see things from a clean slate and not let our past stories creep into our new life for ourselves. I love if you've ever seen the show Ted Lasso, he
I
always
have
says,
not.
oh, it's a good one. I love it. But he always says he's the coach of a soccer team. And his motto is have the memory of a goldfish. So anytime you mess up, you should have the memory of a goldfish. Not like you're not learning from your mistakes, learn from it, but then move on. Like be smart, of course.
Yeah.
Choose someone, yeah. Choose, make choices that you know are going to serve you and that you've learned from. But don't hold your past, as this, proof of what's going to happen in your future, because that's only setting yourself up to keep repeating that past over and over and over again. You have to have the memory of a goldfish, let it go, move on. Your future is your property. Put something new there.
Yeah. And you're 100% right. I was speaking to a beautiful lady a couple of weeks ago, and She goes, Al, why is it that every time I get involved with a guy, they end up having an addiction? Why is that? Right? I tell myself I'm not, and I've done the exact same thing. So I'm not saying anything that I haven't done myself.
Yeah.
It's I'm going to do everything I can to stay away from somebody that's battling an addiction, just to find myself in a relationship there's somebody's battling an addiction. And because
Mm.
that's what I'm putting out there. That's what I'm looking out there for, right? Instead of saying, I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna get in a relationship that is so healthy and somebody that looks at life who wants to grow with an individual instead of the darkness part of things. Because now I'm gonna create that,
Right. You're gonna,
right?
yeah, it's like
Yeah,
you're projecting it into your life
yeah,
when you're
exactly.
thinking about it. Yes,
Yeah.
totally agree. Totally agree.
Now, is this what you use in your training to help women get on track and help them start
Yeah.
moving their life in a different direction?
Yeah. I get asked a lot like, well, how can you coach on any and everything in this school? Like, because I want help with my relationships. I want help with money. I want help with, feeling better and feeling happier. How can you coach on all of that? And I can proudly say that I can, not because I'm amazing at all of that. I'm still a human being that's growing and working on all this myself. I coach myself every single day and I invest in coaching for myself all the time. But the reason I can is because of the tools that we teach in this school. They're mind blowing. Like we said, the I teach what's called the self-coaching model, where you learn that your thoughts create your results in your life. And when you understand that your thoughts are causing all your problems in your life, then spoiler alert, but they are. You then have the power to change it and rewrite something new for yourself. And that relates to every area of our life. And then I also have a lot of specific tools to teach on relationships and things like that. But I will say that this model, in and of itself, everyone needs to understand it. Everyone needs to understand that it's not your circumstances that are causing all your problems. It's what you're thinking about your circumstances that are causing all your problems. And when you get power over that, you have power over your entire life.
Yeah. And you flipping nailed it, Katie. I mean, seriously, you nailed it. Because again, we said earlier in the show, a lot of people look at it that we don't have control over it when we have 100% control over it. And
Yeah.
I agree with you. This is the type of stuff that needs to be taught in school at a very, very early age. Because can you imagine how much, and again, life is still going to throw those shit balls at us no matter what. But can you imagine how much heartache and pain we could stop in this whole worldwide by teaching this type of stuff, by going, we can create a better life. We don't have to look at ourselves negativity, or in a negative way. We don't have to put ourselves down. We can look at ourselves as being someone that's totally amazing, which we are, us humans. I mean, we are the only creature, as far as I know, on this planet where we have the opportunity and the blessings of feeling our feelings. I don't know of no other creature out there that, at least through scientific studies, that they know of any other creature out there that can feel the feelings that we feel. However, we
It's
put ourselves down for doing that.
hmm.
And I have a hard time now, not knowing it before, but now I have a hard time understanding it, why we are putting ourselves down for feeling certain feelings that we have,
Hmm.
except for happy. But I also know people in my life who are happy and then they get upset because they're happy because they don't think they deserve to be happy.
They
And it's
don't
like, my
deserve to be
gosh,
happy. Yes.
what the hell is it that you want in life? My gosh,
Right,
it's
right.
nuts.
That's so good. I
Yeah.
know, it's so true. That's just so beautiful. I totally agree. And I just think, if I was sitting here, I think constantly we're all punching ourselves in the face. Like, if I was sitting here physically punching myself in the face and asking, ow, why am I in so much pain? Like, help me. You'd be like, Katie, stop punching yourself in the face and you'll feel fine. And I'm like, no, no, it's something else,
Yeah,
right?
right. Yeah.
But we do that in our lives all the time. We're constantly punching ourselves in our faces with our thoughts because we don't understand that our thoughts are causing us the pain. Our thinking about what's going on is what's causing our suffering. And so, like you said, we can make our lives and the whole world such a better place when we understand how to stop punching ourselves in the face,
Yeah.
right? It's not outside of our control, right? It's not that you need, you know, a partner that's way hotter for you to feel so in love. It's, you know, it's nothing outside of your control. It's all, you're the one punching yourself in the face, and you can stop it. That's why life coaching changed my life. I learned how to stop punching myself in the face.
You got tired of the black eyes just like I did, huh?
Yeah, yeah. And I teach kickboxing, by the way. So
Oh,
I do
holy
physically punch
cow.
myself in the face sometimes.
That's awesome.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
and as we wrap this up, just to let our listeners know how quickly we can change our thoughts in our brain. I took a class probably 6, 7 years ago,
Mhm.
and it really opened my eyes.
Mm.
The teacher had everybody get up, and we stood in the big circle, and she shut the lights off, and she goes, okay, at the count of three, she goes, first, I want you to draw an imaginary circle in front of you. And the count of three, I want you to step in it and close your eyes. And I want you to think of something that makes you very, very angry.
Mm.
Stay there till I tell you to step out. So we did that whole process. And as we stepped out, she had us open our eyes and look around the room, and you could see people gritting their teeth. And I had both my fists clenched tight, because I was thinking of something that made me very, very angry. She goes, okay, now we're going to do the same thing. But this time when you step into the circle, I want you to think of something that makes you very happy, very excited. What brings joy into your life? We went through the whole process. This time when we stepped out and looked around the room, people had like happy tears, big, big smiles. Some people had their hands like this, and you could
They were
just see the
thinking
joy
about
and feel the energy. And the teacher goes, folks, that's how quickly you can change your thoughts.
it. Mm.
And I
That's
went, oh
beautiful.
my gosh. And so I used that to as my homework as much as I could, to where on the days when I had all these negative thoughts going on in my head,
Mhm.
two things I would use. I would look at the Wasatch Mountains where I love to be. I love being in the mountains. And the second thing is I could pull up the screenshot on my phone of my grandkids, and that instantly put a smile on my face.
Mm.
It would go to show where I would take all that negativity and within just a nanosecond, get rid of it.
Beautiful.
So that's again how quickly,
Mhm.
talking about how we have control over our brain, that's how quickly we can change it. It's just how often do we
Yes.
do it? And the more we repeat it, like brushing our teeth with the opposite hand, it
Mhm.
starts getting easier and easier and easier.
Yes. I always say if you want to change faster than anything else you've ever tried, you just need to learn how to think better. And people
Yeah.
think managing your brain and changing the way you think is just this lifetime process that's going to take a million years to get to where you want. Like it's just super hard to do. And I understand that because it can kind of feel intangible a little bit. But really, when you get a hold over your thoughts, like you said, everything changes so much faster than anything else you've ever tried. Because when your beliefs change, your feelings change and your actions change, and everything follows. Everything changes in an instant. So
Yes.
that's beautiful. I love that so much.
And I love what you shared too. That was perfect.
Yeah.
So Katie, you're getting ready to open this school. How can all these amazing women who want to change their life, how can they find you? How can they contact you? How can they follow you to make sure that when this thing gets ready to launch, they can be there?
Yeah. So right now, I have a wait list for women to join. And so you'll want to hop on the wait list because by doing that, you're going to reserve the unbeatable price of $19 per month. And then you'll also start getting some pre-lessons headed your way, even before the school starts. So you'll learn this self-coaching model that I've been talking about. You'll learn how to do that, and you'll already start learning how to coach yourself even before the school even opens, just by getting on the wait list. No payment information needed or anything at all. And so I think you'll have the link for that in the description, maybe.
I think I saw it in there, but if you would, please just send it to me just to be
You
safe,
can
because I
find
want
it.
to
Yep.
make sure I get it in the comments when the show comes out.
Yeah. But outside of that, yeah, the link there to join the wait list is there and you can learn all about the school. But you can also get a hold of me on Instagram. I'm Katie Swanson Coaching on Instagram.
Okay.
And I'm not on Facebook too much, but I am on Facebook under Katie Swanson Coaching too.
Okay.
And then my email is katie@katieswansoncoaching.com. So you can email me too with any questions.
Okay. Cool. I love it.
Yeah.
Katie, thank you so much for taking time again out of your afternoon. I mean, it was an absolute
Thank
pleasure
you.
having you on the show, and thank you for sharing your knowledge and also being vulnerable and opening up and sharing your story a little bit about it. And you know, it's not very easy when people open up and share a part of them that they're not proud of, right? Or just a part of their life that they struggled with. It's definitely not easy. However, like I read at the beginning of the show, using our voices just goes to show that, or hopefully helps other people go, oh my gosh, if this person opened up, I can open up as well. And I tell you what, folks, once you're able to start talking about it and open up, you will actually find less judgment and more empathy from individuals who want to be there and help you any way that they possibly can. And again, we cannot do it alone. We have to have someone or others, as many as possible, in our corner to help us on this journey.
That's right. We need each other. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Al.
Well, thank you, my dear. Greatly appreciate it. And it's been an honor getting to sit down with you today. And it was a pleasure getting to meet you. And I hope that we can cross paths again in the near future. And who knows, man? I'm always looking for ways to come up with some type of event that we can bring
Oh,
other
I know.
people in and do all kinds of different stuff to see. Again, it's the more of us that come together,
Hmm.
the wider spread of people's lives we can change. So again,
That's
thank you
right.
so much.
We'll have to do something. We just did our women's wellness night, so we'll have to have you at that next time.
Oh, I would love to. I look pretty good in a skirt as long as I shave my. No, I'm kidding.
Well, there could be some dating prospects for you
Oh,
there. So
possibly. All right, possibly. Well, guys, thank you again very much. Thank you to all our guests, all our past guests, all our past sponsors, and most of all, thank you to all our listeners. You guys are the ones that are making this possible. If it wasn't for you, man, we wouldn't be going here. Gosh, guys, March is coming up. Really, March is going to be here, and that's going to be our fourth year. Today's episode was our 310th. I just still am in awe that this show has been going this long and this many guests. So, wish y'all an amazing, amazing week, an amazing evening. And remember this: addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.